All right, moving on to the next section. I was talking and I realized I'm running out of time. So the last video cut me off. But what I was saying was this hourglass shape, uh, traditionally beauty, fashion has kind of followed this, this guy. And then in the 60s, we really moved towards the rectangle, just very slim, up and down, um, not much of a womanly figure, right? If you think of the one of the first fashion models, name was Twiggy in the 60s. She's very started that movement towards the kind of the rectangle body type. So this is traditionally where we see here and here we are seeing a movement towards the pear shape because that junk in the trunk, people folks are realizing that what did God, I'm gonna date myself. Never mind, I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna quote a song, but I'm gonna totally date myself, and you guys may not even know the song. So I won't even say that. But this bottom heavy shape is in fashion as well. It's more in fashion as well. It's been, I hate to say it, for African Americans, this has always been the never trust a big button to smile, right? That's a lyric. That was a lyric, right? For Poison, right? So this bottom heavy shape has been, seen as beautiful in many other cultures. I'm not just gonna say African American community, but in many cultures, this bottom heavy shape is important. This is going to sound crazy. It's totally sexist, but having childbearing hips, right? Having a bottom that was heavier so that you would be able to push a child out was really important. So we do see some changes. We see some changes in what is acceptable in the fashion world now, and that whole size inclusivity is becoming more prominent, right? That you shouldn't be you shouldn't be designing for just this body type, right? Because these people have money they want to spend too. So again, when you're talking to your clients, though, about body types, remember that this is often it's a sensitive subject, but there's some things that you need to be able to explain to them so they have a full understanding that that this body typing is bone structure, right? It's age, it's the number of pregnancies you may have had, it's fat distribution, it's genetics, it's hormonal combinations. All these things determine your shape. So if you were a pear shape at age 13, you're going to be a pear shape at 45, right? No matter how much weight you lose, if you lose 10 pounds, you are going to be a 10-pound lighter pear shape person, right? That is it just happens, right? So this is a lot of this is genetics. Now, of course, cosmetic surgery can cure a lot or create, you could build a body, right? You could build a body too. But it's really important that your client understands that they need to embrace what body type that they are. This is all me. I am. And when we talk about this in just a second, that's me. It is what it is. I gain weight, I lose weight. The only time which wasn't even that different. The only time my body really was anything other than this was when I was pregnant, and that was temporary. Then I was hourglass, bam. After I had them kids, while I was nursing, and then I went right back to my rectangle. All right, it is what it is. So let's talk about these different body types. And underneath this video, I'll have some celebrities, some folks that or just some images of folks with these different body types. So let's start with what I am. I'm the rectangle. This body type sometimes is called, straight ruler body type. It just means that the waist measurements, so where we are in our middle, is less than 9 inches smaller than the bust and the hip measurements. So we're not particularly curvy. Our waist isn't super well defined. Our weight is evenly distributed across our body. So I'll be transparent. I have a 29-inch waist and a 36-inch bust. So I'm within that threshold. I'm not 9 inches, and my hips are like a 34. So I'm I'm a rectangle. I just am. I'm straight up and down. My weight is evenly distributed. And when I gain and lose weight, you can't really tell because it's not any more prominent in one area over the other. So that's the other thing with the rectangle. The weight is evenly distributed. So if I lose weight, when I've lost weight, not intentionally, I've never been on a diet in my life, but when I've lost weight, you can never really tell because it doesn't all get lost from one location. So that's what the rectangle is. All right. Next, we're gonna move to our triangle. I'm skipping over this guy. We'll get there in a second. We'll move to our triangle, which is also known as a pear shape. This shape is characterized by hips that are wider than the bust. So that's why this is up here at the top. This is at the bottom, wider than the bust. This usually they have a very well-defined waist. This is small, this is defined, and this is wider. They have, usually like some more delicate shoulders and slim arms, and extra weight is usually distributed down here in their hips, but thighs rather than the upper body. So when we think of folks that are that are in this body type, I mean, really, this is kind of the body type that this is going to sound weird. That's kind of in vogue right now. Like it's really. You got a little waist, what they call it slim thick, right? They call it slim thick, right? So you're kind of smaller up here, you have a small waist, but you got the junk in the trunk, right? You got the junk in the trunk. So this, kind of pear triangle shape is more emphasized with celebrities. And if we think of folks like Jennifer Lopez, right? So she's known for her bottom half more than anything. She's not particularly busty, she's not spilling over, she's not overflowing on the top, but she's more bottom heavy. She got a nice little curve, right? Rihanna would fit in this category as well, not super busty. Some people put Kim Kardashian in here. I really put her more in the hourglass, but proportionally, right, her bottom is still in a bigger proportion than her top, and she does have a super defined waist. So so that's that pear shape. Moving on when we get to our hourglass. This hourglass is characterized by hip and bust measurements that are nearly equal in size. So that 36, 24, 36 that we hear about, that doesn't exist. That woman could not breathe. A 36 top and a 24-inch waist, like a 24-inch waist. I think my daughter's 11. I think she doesn't even have a 24-inch waist. But right, so that when we hear that, 36, 24, 36, there's a Commodore song called Brick House. The lyrics are 36, 24, 36. What a winning hand, right? That doesn't even exist, right? Barbie are those proportions, right? 24-inch waist. Woo, 24-inch waist is something that people can't do, right? But the hourglass shape is the hip and the bust measurements are about the same, and then the waist is smaller than either of these two, but 24 is too small. And this body type often has, really round shoulders, and the legs are in proportion to the upper body, okay? And then last, we're going to talk about this last body shape. We're going to talk about the inverted triangle, or what's often also known as the apple shape. So pear, apple. And if you think about, a pear is narrow on the top and wide on the bottom, and an apple is wide on the top and narrow on the bottom, right? So broader shoulders and bust with a narrow waist and hips, and not necessarily a well-defined waistline, or not necessarily curvy around the hips, but just a very broad-shouldered woman with with just narrower hips. So those are the main body types. And when we move forward and we talk about those body types in conjunction with how weight is gained or lost for these body types. Let me move myself up here. With the rectangle, again, that weight gain or loss occurs evenly across the body. With the triangle, it's in the thighs, and in the rear. Inverted triangle, it's in the breast and the midriff, right? Stomach. And then for that hourglass, it occurs in the stomach, thighs. It's in the centers, right? In the center. So really important that we have an understanding of these body types as we are explaining to our clients what their body type is. All right, and then we're going to move on to those last two body types. I told you there were 4 and 2. The last two body types we're going to talk about are the diamond and the half pint. And the diamond is a woman who has a narrower shoulder and bust, a narrower waist and bottom, and is really thick. Thick through the midriff, right? So, diamond, right? And then the half pint body type is really more proportion based on height. And when we get to the next slide, we'll look at that proportion based on height. Actually, we'll go to the next slide, right? So if we look at that half pint, it's hard to define this body type. Let me move myself over here. It's hard to define this body type because they often are, I hate to say it, like short and squat, right? So that's where we get this roundness from, because their torso is so compact, right, that they can't have a defined waist, they can't have a defined bust, and they can't have a defined bottom because they're in such a compact manner. Okay, so again, looking at our body types, we see our rectangle, our ruler, our up and down. We see our triangle, so narrower, fuller. We see our also pear shape, right? We see our inverted triangle, also apple shape, so broader shoulders, waist and narrow hips and bottom. We see our hourglass, busty, defined waist, and again fuller here. We see again another version of the apple, or the round body type. We see diamond, and we just see our poor baby girl here. She's just tiny. All right, so I'm going to end this section here. Maybe not. Yeah, let me end the section here because I only got 3 more minutes left. If I keep going, I'm going to overtalk it. So I'm going to end the section here, and next we're going to talk about male body types, because they mirror women's, but they have different descriptors, right? They have a little bit of a different descriptor. So we're going to talk about male body types, and I'm going to give you some scientific terms around body typing as well.